Welcome to Villainous News, your national and global news dump. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. On the date of Mayor Kaufman's announcement, Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman took to social media to announce a series of emergency court orders targeting apartment buildings within the city. These buildings, he alleged, were havens for Venezuelan gangs and posed a significant threat to public safety. Kaufman cited numerous complaints from residents about drug dealing, violence, and other criminal activities emanating from these properties. The mayor's announcement came as a shock to many in the community, sparking immediate debate about the severity of the issue and the tactics being employed to address it. The emergency court orders, Kaufman explained, were necessary to swiftly shut down these buildings and remove the criminal element residing within them. He argued that traditional law enforcement methods were insufficient to combat the problem and that a more aggressive approach was required. The mayor's bold move signaled a new chapter in Aurora's fight against gang violence, but it also raised concerns about potential overreach and the targeting of specific immigrant communities. Central to the controversy was the recent closure of an apartment complex on Nome Street. This closure has sparked a heated debate among city officials, residents, and community activists. This complex, city officials claimed, was riddled with safety violations, including faulty wiring, broken smoke detectors, and rampant mold growth. These issues were not just minor inconveniences, but serious hazards that could lead to catastrophic outcomes if left unaddressed. These conditions, they argued, made the building uninhabitable and posed a serious risk to the health and well-being of its residents. Families with young children and elderly residents were particularly vulnerable to these dangers. The city's decision to evacuate and close the building was met with mixed reactions from residents. Some saw it as a necessary step to ensure their safety, while others felt it was an abrupt and poorly managed process that left them with nowhere to go. Some residents were grateful for the intervention, believing it would lead to better living conditions in the future. However, others expressed frustration and displacement as they were forced to leave their homes with little notice and uncertain futures. Mayor Kaufman, however, painted a different picture of the Nome Street closure. He suggested that the safety violations were only part of the story and that there were deeper, more troubling issues at play. He alleged that the building was a known stronghold for a notorious Venezuelan gang known as TDA, Tren de Aragua, which had been operating in the area for some time. This gang was involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and violent crimes. According to Kaufman, the safety violations were simply a pretext for shutting down a hub of criminal activity. The real goal was to dismantle the gang's operations and restore safety to the neighborhood. Kaufman pointed to several recent arrests made at the complex, which he claimed were directly linked to the gang's activities. These arrests were part of a larger effort by law enforcement to crack down on gang-related crime in the city. In addition to the arrests, there were reports from confidential informants who had provided valuable information about the gang's operations. These informants had risked their lives to help law enforcement gather evidence. The evidence presented by law enforcement included weapons, drugs, and other items linked to the gang's activities. This evidence was used to justify the closure of the apartment complex and the eviction of its residents. The mayor's claims fueled a narrative of fear and suspicion, particularly among those already harboring negative perceptions of Venezuelan immigrants. This has led to increased tension and division within the community as residents grapple with the complex issues of safety, crime, and displacement. The mayor's characterization of the Nome Street closure and the broader issue of Venezuelan gang activity was swiftly challenged by some city staff members and community advocates. The tension in the room was palpable as differing perspectives clashed over the true nature of the problem. They argued that Kaufman was exaggerating the problem and using inflammatory rhetoric to score political points. Critics pointed out that such statements could incite unnecessary fear and division within the community, potentially leading to further marginalization of immigrant groups. While acknowledging the presence of crime and safety concerns in certain areas, these individuals maintained that the vast majority of Venezuelan immigrants were law-abiding residents simply trying to build a better life. They highlighted stories of families who had fled violence and economic hardship in their home country, seeking refuge and opportunities in a new land. They accused the mayor of exploiting a complex situation for his own political gain, potentially at the expense of vulnerable communities. Community leaders stressed the importance of addressing issues with sensitivity and a focus on unity rather than division. City staff, particularly those working in code enforcement and housing, pushed back against the mayor's assertion that the Nome Street closure was primarily about gang activity. They emphasized that their primary concern was the safety and well-being of all residents, regardless of their background. They emphasized the numerous and serious safety violations discovered during inspections, arguing that these alone justified the building's closure. The violations included structural issues, fire hazards, and unsanitary conditions that posed immediate risks to the occupants. They presented documentation outlining years of complaints and failed attempts to get the landlord to address the hazardous living conditions. The record showed a pattern of neglect and non-compliance that had put residents in danger for far too long. These officials maintained that their actions were motivated solely by concerns for resident safety and were not part of some targeted campaign against any particular group. They called for a balanced approach that would ensure the safety of all residents while also addressing the root causes of crime and instability in the community. The debate over the Nome Street closure and the mayor's comments highlighted the broader challenges facing the city. It underscored the need for collaborative efforts to create safe, inclusive, and thriving neighborhoods where all residents can feel secure and supported. Moving forward, city officials and community advocates alike emphasized the importance of open dialogue, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to the well-being of the entire community. They called for continued engagement and cooperation to address the complex issues at hand and to build a brighter future for all. Mayor Kaufman's pronouncements about Venezuelan gangs operating in Aurora ignited a firestorm of controversy. His statements were not just local news, they quickly became a national talking point. Conservative media outlets seized upon the story, amplifying the mayor's claims and spreading them far and wide. The narrative was picked up by various right-wing platforms, each adding their own spin to the story. These outlets often framed the situation through a lens of anti-immigrant sentiment, suggesting that the presence of Venezuelan gangs was a direct result of lax immigration policies. Commentators and pundits pointed to the situation in Aurora as evidence of the dangers posed by open borders. The story tapped into existing anxieties about crime, immigration, and cultural change, fueling a narrative that painted Venezuelan immigrants as a threat to public safety and American values. This narrative was not new, but was reignited with a fresh intensity. The portrayal of Venezuelan immigrants as dangerous elements within the community led to increased tensions and fear among residents. Immigrant families and diverse community groups found themselves under heightened scrutiny and pressure. The political backlash was swift and fierce. Colorado Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat, publicly criticized Mayor Kaufman's handling of the situation, accusing him of stoking fear and division. Polis emphasized the importance of distinguishing between criminal activity and immigration status, urging a more nuanced and compassionate approach to addressing the challenges facing Aurora. He called for policies that would ensure public safety without demonizing entire communities. Polis's stance was supported by various local and national figures. Other elected officials, community leaders, and advocacy groups echoed these sentiments, condemning the mayor's rhetoric and calling for a de-escalation of tensions. They highlighted the importance of community cohesion and the dangers of divisive language. Advocacy groups organized meetings and protests, emphasizing the need for unity and understanding. They argued that the mayor's comments were not only harmful, but also counterproductive to the goal of creating a safe and inclusive community. The situation in Aurora became a flashpoint in a larger national debate about immigration, crime, and the role of government in addressing these complex issues. The discussions extended to various platforms, including social media, where opinions were sharply divided. National news coverage further amplified the debate, with government officials and public figures weighing in on both sides. Large protests and rallies were organized, reflecting the deep divisions within the country on the issue of immigration. As the debate raged on, it became clear that the situation in Aurora was more than just a local issue. It was a microcosm of the broader national struggle over immigration policy, public safety, and the values that define America. The events in Aurora served as a reminder of the power of rhetoric and the importance of responsible leadership in times of crisis. The community's response highlighted the need for empathy, understanding, and a commitment to finding solutions that benefit all residents. Thanks for joining us on Villainous News, your national and global news dump. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.